If you've been playing the guitar for years but are still stuck playing the same familiar shape that you've always played, then this video is for you, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what you've been missing that's been holding you back this whole time, and I'm going to show you exactly how to fix this problem. So let's get right into it. In my role as a guitar teacher, I see this problem all of the time, and what I take my students through is a 7-step system that destroys this problem. So we're going to do that right now in this video. Step number 1 is to understand that there are actually 5 different shapes of the minor pentatonic scale. So if you're stuck in shape number 1, you need to go through and learn the other 4 shapes. Now, I've been playing the guitar for about 25 years, and for 20 of those years I have actually been giving lessons to other people. Now, when I see a student for the first time, they can usually play what you see on the screen in front of you right now, A minor pentatonic shape 1. Now, that is probably the box that you are currently trapped in. Now, many players that I've met and taught over the years are not aware of something called the caged system. Now, rather than this being a full caged tutorial, what I'm going to do in this lesson here is I'm just going to walk you through the other 5 positions of the minor pentatonic scale. On various other videos that I've done here on YouTube, I go in depth into the cage system and show you, for example, what you have here is a caged shape 2 chord form, which looks like this, and then around it we're going to build that scale. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to walk you through the 5 shapes, but if you want to watch that other stuff, there is another video about that on the channel. Also, if you want a dedicated course that will take you through all of this material and more, you can get that in the link in the description below. So what we're looking at here is A minor pentatonic in shape 2. Now, if you look at the intervals, what you'll see is that the intervals that make up the minor pentatonic scale, we have a root, minor third, 4th, 5th, flat 7. Shape 2 simply starts on the minor third. So what we're then going to do is play a shape that looks like this. Okay, and now how you want to get that under your fingers to learn the shape, I would suggest that you start on fingers 2 and 4, then go to fingers 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, third shape starts on the perfect 4th, so in the key of A minor, that is your 10th fret. Okay? Now, I would suggest that in this key you can use fingers 1 and 3 to play the entire shape, so that comes out as 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 9, 12, 10, 13, 10, 12. Shape 4 starts up at your 12th fret on the perfect 5th, and you can again in the key of A minor use fingers 1 and 3 to play the whole thing, so that would be 12, 15, 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 13, 15, 12, 15. And lastly, starting on the flat 7, you've got shape 5, so this is starting up at the 15th fret, and again you can use fingers 1 and 3 in the key of A minor to play 15, 17, and then again, then you've got 14, 17, 14, 17, 15, 17, 15, 17. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is to learn those 5 shapes. Now, once you've learned them, something that's also really important inside each shape is to understand where the root notes are. Now, the root note in this key would be the A note. So when I'm playing this shape, the root notes live here, here, and here. When I'm playing shape 2, the root notes live here and here. In shape 3, it's here and here. Shape 4, here and here. And shape 5, here, here, and here. Now, why those root notes are so important is because that's what helps you change key and shows you how to play through the different keys. So those 5 shapes that we've just learned in A minor, let's say for example I wanted to change that to G minor, I'd start at shape 1 where there are my G root notes. So shape 1's G root notes would be here, here, and here. Therefore I've got my shape 1. Then next door to that would be shape 2. shape 3, shape 4, shape 5, then I'd be back to shape 1 again. So that's how the 5 pentatonic positions map across the fretboard in any key, by basically learning that system and moving it up and down the fretboard like this. Once you've understood that, as a student of mine, what I would do is show you how to connect that up and give you a few drills and exercises to do before then moving into stage 2, which is how you go about developing shape-based vocabulary. So it's all well and good learning some shapes, but the next big miss that most people have is that they don't develop some licks and lines and runs and things that they can actually play and say on the instrument in those shapes that they've worked hard on learning. So the next stage is to actually develop some shape-based vocabulary. Now what that means is, as you're moving around the fretboard, wherever you find yourself, you want to have things to say in a vertical position on the fretboard. We'll also talk about how you can open up the fretboard and connect areas, but the starting thing is to have some vertical shape-based vocabulary. So what I've put on the tab on the screen here is basically a lick or a line that I can play around A minor pentatonic in shape 1. So what we're going to do is I'm embellishing this some chromatic approach tones. So basically, before I play this root note here at that 5th fret, I'm just sliding in from the 4th fret below, and then just using the 4th intervals that naturally live within the minor pentatonic. Then I've got a basic 16th note rundown. Now here I'm borrowing the flat 5 from the blues scale. So that's another embellishment sound that we can use to add a bit of weight to our pentatonic tones there. Now here in the second bar, this is typical of sort of Hendrixy kind of vocabulary. So I'm using the flat 5 just to embellish that minor pentatonic sound. So all the way through, this lick sounds like this. You can feel free to add anything else that you want to on the end to sort of flesh that out even more, but what I'm going to do now is just play that in context for you. A shape-based idea in shape 1 of the scale. Now many of you watching this video will probably be quite comfortable playing ideas in shape 1. The only thing that I would say is, do you have defined ideas like the one that I had written up on the screen there that you can just play, or would you be hoping for divine intervention to just tell you what to play? If that is the case, that you're just waiting for ideas to come to you, then on a stage or in a recording studio or just playing at home for fun, you're going to have that anxiety feeling of just going like, oh, whatever I'm going to play is going to sound rubbish. So if you get defined ideas, then you'll have the confidence to go, I've got some things that I like to say on the instrument and I can just play them at will. Now if you've got a couple of ideas in each position, what you would then do is work on your exit points and entry points, so you can push and pull those licks around so that they become an almost infinite number of ideas, because you've got an overarching idea that you can then adapt on the fly, that then becomes something that is like a flexible friend, so to speak. What you don't want to do is make the mistake of stopping at learning ideas in shape 1. So what we're going to look at here is another idea that's in shape 2. So this is another defined idea that I can play around this shape. Okay, so it comes out like this in its entirety. Kind of inspired a little bit by Robin Ford and those sorts of players. When I'm interested in blues and that sort of thing, that's the kind of player that I listen to. So what we've got here is a sliding in here to the 9th fret on the G string, which is the 5th of the A minor pentatonic. Then we've got a little double stop, a broken double stop, kind of like Chuck Berry style vocabulary. Now when we come down, we're basically going down the scale here, but not going, we're skipping a note out. And then we're going to use the flat 5 of the blues scale again in bar 2. So you get that sort of Hendrixy twiddle. Then exit into our A. So let's again have a listen to this one in some context. So developing that shape-based vocabulary is very, very important. You'll want to go through and do that in all 5 positions so that you have things to say. Now, for most people that take a lesson from me, that feels like their first absolutely massive breakthrough when they can solo in all the different positions because they feel like they're starting to own the neck. But the next place to go to start really advancing your playing is to be able to take ideas all the way up the fretboard, because that takes your ideas through the 5 positions. So let's take a look at doing that. Okay, so this example is strictly pentatonic only. So this is only notes from A minor pentatonic that are being used. But what I'm doing here, I'm going to play basically this little pattern here on the top 2 strings. So that's your 5-8-5, your first triplet beat that you can see. So from my shape 1, I'm using the 5th fret on the B, 8th fret on the high E, then back to that 5th fret on the B. Now what I'm going to basically do is play that in shape 1, then do it again in shape 2, then do it in shape 3, in shape 4, shape 5, back to shape 1 in the octave position, and then exit. So all the way through that comes out like this. So what we have when you look at doing ideas like this is something called thematic development. I've set up a theme and then I'm taking it through those different positions. So why that's great for us as a guitar soloist is because everything is building higher and higher up to that crescendo where we do the bend, which is a different way of building tension and then release, excitement in a solo, etc, etc. So let's have a listen to that one in context. Area that we need to talk about, guys, is adding modal flavors, and what I want to talk about specifically is playing the Dorian mode. There are lots of different modes of the major scale, of melodic minor, of harmonic minor, etc. But if you're playing the pentatonic, the next sweet place that you can go to is by looking at the Dorian mode. So what we're going to do is view this as, once you've learned your pentatonic forms, we're going to add to those shapes 2 extra notes. So pentatonic, 5 note scales. So pent is 5, tonic means note. What we're going to look at with the modal scale are 7 note scales, so adding in 2 extra notes. Now in the Dorian mode, we'll take our minor pentatonic, which is root, minor 3rd, 4th, 5th, flat 7. And what we're going to look at adding is a major 2nd and a major 6. So in your caged positions, what we would get is root, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. And that would carry on into the 2nd octave. So we've got the root, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, major 6, flat 7, root, 2, flat 3. To start adding these flavors to your pentatonic vocabulary, what I would do is I would take something like the lick that we had a moment ago when I was doing this, and I would start adding in something like the 2nd or the 6th to an idea like that, and it would come out something like this. So let's put that in context so we can hear what that sounds like. Now once you know how to develop your modal flavours by adding that to your pentatonic ideas. What you'll then want to develop are shape-based lines, a bit like this. So what you can see on the screen in front of you right now is a Dorian-based line in shape 1 of the scale. So what I've done, I've taken this shape and I've turned it into some musical vocabulary by playing this, what you can see in the tab. So where this is all coming from is basically in the beginning part of this line, I'm playing straight through the scale. But then here, we're looking at extracting intervallic leaps rather than playing straight through the scale. Now that's an intervallic leap in a fourth, and then we're going to go into using thirds. Now on the last part of the bar, we're using bridging, like chromatic bridging, to get us from the major 6 up to that root note. So the first part of this line sounds like this. So in the second bar, I'm basically doing this. That's playing straight through a D major triad, which has been extracted from within the scale. And then we're doing more intervallic leaps. So, what we are developing here with playing a line rather than a lick is an actual musical phrase that has contour and shape all the way through. Let's have a listen to this in context. Recommend is that you start developing lines like that in each one of those caged positions. It's very important to have a selection of licks and lines and runs and various things that you can play in all parts of the neck. But what you will work on is your exit points. If you get your exit points down, you can take only a handful of lines and turn them into a wide variety of vocabulary. Now what's also cool about modal lines is that they can also be used against other chords in other modal contexts, as long as you work on those exit points. Now if you want to know more about all of that stuff, do check out the links in the description box below. Sixth area that I want to talk about here is 3 notes per string. So we've just talked about developing shape-based vocabulary for modes and adding modal flavors with the caged system. If you can understand the 3 notes per string system, what that's going to open up for you is the ability to play fast ideas and turn licks and lines into runs that you can play all over the whole guitar neck. You can see on the screen in front of you now is A Dorian mapped out in 3 notes per string. So when we were playing it as a caged position, here for example we play 2 notes per string, and all the rest of it is 3 notes per string. And what that does is it tends to keep us in this one position here. But if we play 3 notes per string, what that does is it will take us in a slightly different direction, but it will give us a uniform picking pattern that can be used on every string and a uniform legato technique that can be used on every string. So 3 notes per string is absolutely brilliant for fast picking runs like this, and of course your legato patterns like this. Where the real magic happens in 3 notes per string is in being able to connect these positions up. So much like we had when we did our pentatonic forms, the 3 notes per string forms all start on each new note of the scale. So we just played A Dorian in shape 1, starting on the root note. But when we do shape 2, that starts on the major 2nd, and it looks like this. Shape 3 starts on the minor 3rd and looks like this. Shape 4 starts on the perfect 4th and looks like this. 5 starts on your perfect 5th and looks like this. Position 6 starts on your major 6, and you can play that when you're learning it to get the system under your fingers. You can play that either up here in the higher position, or you can take it down an octave to here. Starting on the flat 7 of the scale, you've got A Dorian position 7, which looks like this. or up in the octave position. As we just discussed, you can be using 3 notes per string forms like this to play very fast run-based vocabulary that moves back and forward across the neck. But where the real magic happens is in our 7th point here, where what we want to do is look at developing runs that move within connected positions. So let's get into that. So what you can see on the screen in front of you now is a 3 notes per string based legato idea, which comes out like this. Exiting to an A root note there actually. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take a basic fragment. So if you look at, we start in shape 6 of the scale and we're going to go across 2 strings and then we're going to basically come back to where we started on this string. So your full roll back down to this B note here. Then what you're going to do is move into the next position and do this again, but on the 5th and 4th string. Then we'll move up a position and do the same pattern, but on the 4th and 3rd string. Then again, shift position and do it again on the G and B strings. Now I've finished that run there on an A root note, so you get this. But what you can start doing from here is adding all sorts of exit points which make this become a musical run based idea. So for me personally, I might go into playing triad based ideas. You might play something pentatonic. You might play an arpeggio based idea. You know, you can go into all sorts of different things that you want to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in context now and just do an exit that I would like so you can hear this played in a musical context. Okay guys, so they are the 7 stages that you want to go through in order to get yourself out of that pentatonic swamp, so to speak. If you want more help on going further on what I've talked about in this video, check out the links in the description where you can either take your place on one of my online courses or come and become one of my students over at the Cutting Edge Guitar online learning platform. If you want to continue your learning here on YouTube, YouTube's a pretty smart platform and it knows what you ought to be watching next, and you can get that right here. Also, do make sure that you subscribe to the channel over here, because that way you'll get all of my videos and everything as they come out. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Take care. Thanks for watching.